Hi, everybody. It's Mike Swanson speaking to you live from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm in the One Vantage Way headquarters of Advocate Capital, and today's webinar is Go Video or Go Home. So let's get started. First of all, this is me. I'm the president and CEO of Advocate Capital. I'm also the author of a book called How David Beats Goliath. It's the only finance training book ever published for plaintiff lawyers. So if you're a plaintiff lawyer and you'd like a copy, message me. I'm happy to send a copy out to you today. Today's webinar is brought to you by Advocate Capital. We are the purveyors of the AvoTrack Case Expense Funding Service. We are serving about 520 law firms nationwide, tracking and funding over 65,000 cases. For more information, visit advocatecapital.com. Today, though, we're going to talk about something completely different, but before we do, a quick disclaimer. This webinar is designed for informational purposes only. If you're either going to take or fail to take action based upon anything you see or hear today, please consult with your tax, accounting, or legal advisors. We're doing this as a service to plaintiff lawyers to try to help you get even better results for your clients and grow your practice. And now let's get started with our special guest. He's joining us today from, I believe, South Carolina. It's Mr. Jay Russell. Hi, Jay.
Hey, how are you? Sorry.
Fantastic. Are you in South Carolina today?
Yes, sir, I am. I'm in Greenville, South Carolina.
Greenville. Okay, I have yet to visit Greenville. I've heard it's a beautiful place and a great place to retire.
Oh, it is a beautiful place. Greenville is a phenomenal place.
Fantastic. Well, I have no plans to retire, but when I do, I'll have to check Greenville out. So Jay is joining us today because Jay wrote a book. One of my existing clients at Advocate recommends Jay, and I thought, well, let's get a different twist. He and I had a really interesting conversation recently about what he's been doing. So he is director of video productions at a firm called EverConvert, and he is also an investigative storyteller. But Jay, I'm hoping you can give us more background about where you've been and how you got here.
Okay. When I got out of college, I always wanted to be a South Carolina state trooper since I was a little kid.
A state trooper?
Yes, sir. The blue and the silver car, and the state troopers are the elite of the elite in this state as far as law enforcement goes. So I got out of college and a class came available. They hadn't had a class in 2 years. And so the week I graduated, I left and went to patrol school. And I was stationed in Richland County my first year. My second year was Cherokee County, and the other 3 years of my career were on what's called the ACE team, which is a narcotics division of the Highway Patrol.
Great. So where'd you go from there?
Well, from there, I created a private drug dog business. I realized that there was a problem in industry there was as much problem in industry with drugs as they were, out on the public roads. We were stopping people, and they would have a pocket full of money and a pocket full of dope. So I started, there was only one other country in the nation, and we traveled throughout the nation searching private industry and schools with dogs. And from there, I was teaching about substance abuse in the coal mine industry. They were having a lot of problems with it up there, and I just kind of wasn't really getting there. I said there's got to be more to this than to be able to do this than just talking to people or getting people in trouble. So I went to New York to a film school. It was a 4-day film school, and I learned to edit and shoot video, and basically learned to tell a story that people could see, and do it right. And I met a producer there that learned my background. His name was Michael Rosenblum.
Okay.
And he said, somebody with your background and your personality, you need to be on TV. And I never imagined about being on TV.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah. So he said, go home and shoot a reel. So I went home and I shot this crazy reel, craziest thing you ever seen. It was helicopters and dogs biting people, and it was just things all over the place. And we took the reel back to New York, sent it to California. It got picked up by a production company, and we ended up doing 3 seasons on True TV.
Wow.
Um, yeah,
So you had a
it
TV
was,
show on True TV.
yeah, for 3 years, called Southern Fried Stings. And then, and in that process, I learned to create shows. I learned how to create a show and sell a show.
Mm.
So I created a show called World's Worst Tenants. It was on Spike. I sold that show, and I ended up doing what's called sizzle reels, which is a brochure about a show you sell to networks.
Okay.
So I traveled all over the nation for like 4 years,
Wow.
learning how to shoot shows. And what made me good at it was because I worked narcotics, for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I learned to talk to people and read people within about 45 seconds. Because if you're on the side of the road, you're either friend or foe. It's no in between.
Right.
So people have to have a certain personality, and they have to have a certain ability to be produced and to be on TV. Getting on TV on your own TV show is one of the hardest things you'll ever do.
Hmm.
And so selling a TV show is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. But in the process of that, I learned about people. I learned how to tell people's story.
Okay.
And these were people that were, they never thought they would be on TV, just kind of like me. So learning to listen and be able to investigate their life, they may be on TV for something other than they ever thought they were going to be on there for. You may show up for one thing, but they're on TV on a whole different kind of show.
Right. Like World's Worst Tenants. That's something people aspire to.
Yes, the others didn't mean to be on TV. So from there, I learned that, hey, being able to tell people's story and everybody that surrounds those people
Mm-hmm.
is something that it takes certain kind of people to do.
Right.
And from there, I ended up doing a promotional video for a lawyer, and he
Okay.
wanted a promo video for his website, and I still do that today. I love to do it. And once he learned my background, he was like, look, I got an investigation in North Carolina. Can you help me with it? And I was like, well, I don't know. And he's like, well, I'll pay you this. And I said, okay, I'll start tomorrow. So I ended up investigating civil litigation cases throughout the nation for 8 years.
Wow.
These are things that have impacted people's life, that some of the things I've seen on cases you never would imagine would happen to a human being.
Hmm.
I've knocked on the door and told people that their children have died and that their relatives have died, and all that comes into play with what I do now, because I understand the impact of a tragic event, and I know how to tell that story in a certain way that it impacts the outcome of whoever tells their story and what audience they tell it to.
Right. So I guess that kind of brings us around to the book. How did you come to write this book, Box Office Verdict?
Well, that's kind of an interesting story also. I went to Atlanta, and I met a guy, a lawyer named Joe Freed. And Joe used to be a police officer, and that's how I kind of got in with him, is and I was a police officer. So we got to talking, and I got to talking about my background in production and my background in law enforcement and my background in investigation. And he asked me, he said, you think you could put together a legal, a CLE to train lawyers on how to build a case like a TV show? Because there's so many parallels. I mean, there's you got characters, and you got story, and you got location, and you got drama, and you got outcomes. You have all these things that are in a TV show in a legal case.
Yeah.
And so I started doing the CLE, and it basically turned into a book. I met a guy that helped me, Michael DeLome, and he's a writer. So part of his contribution is he teaches people to write visually. He teaches people that when you write a complaint or whatever it may be, that whoever's reading that complaint is seeing the pictures in their head. And that's very important nowadays, because your juries, your adjusters, and now your judges, and even the defense, they get their information from this right here. They get
Yep.
it from a screen.
Yep.
They're used to getting it fast, and they're used to it being told to them, and they're used to seeing it. They're not used to reading it anymore. So that's kind of how I wrote the book. That's the format of the book, or the foundation of the book, and it teaches how to do it.
Right. So one of the things I know you're part of your formula is to develop characters, right?
So one thing that when we consult on cases is, as what I do is, as from the investigative standpoint, was when somebody walked through the door, I automatically start imagining what this would look like as a TV show. And from the people that are talking, to the people that they tell me about, to all of these things. But the investigative component is a very important part of this, because what I do is I get into their social media, I get into their background, I get into their neighbors, I get into the guy that cuts their hair at the barbershop.
Wow.
That in some way has impacted their life, and now can attest to what has happened to them. So using the characters is first finding the characters. It's not just the person that was injured in the incident.
Okay.
There's many other people that surround these people, and that's what's the living, breathing animal of what I do is I show what the impact of the negligence of another party has done to not only the injured party,
Right.
but everyone that surrounds that individual.
Yes.
Because let's face it, I mean, everybody's life's changed. You know, now mama's keeping the kids, and now you got to take, so-and-so's got to go here, and so-and-so's got to go to the grocery store because this person's not allowed to do it anymore. So the damages are actually elevated because you're showing everybody's life that has been impacted by this negligence.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I think I mentioned in the intro is that we're presently funding over 65,000 cases around the country, and we're always reminding ourselves that those aren't cases, those are people. And then when you count, like you say, the other people that they know, the family members, friends, community members who are impacted by what's happened in their life, we know that our clients are serving hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people through these actions that they're prosecuting.
Yeah, I mean, I just had a case where a police officer got killed. He got thrown out of a boat. You know, the loss wasn't only to his family. The whole community lost. You know, this guy impacted his whole neighborhood. He impacted churches. He impacted schools. And you have to show those things, because if you don't show those things, people aren't going to come to that realization that police officers aren't just there to protect you. They're there to influence your children. They're there to influence people that are trying to get back on their feet because they've had some kind of legal problem. So there's a lot more damage to him dying than just his kids don't have a father anymore, and his wife doesn't have a husband anymore, which is very important. But there's a lot more that surrounds it.
Absolutely. So what are some of the steps then?
Well, the first thing we do, or I do, is I have a great production team. Our production teams are comprised of former cops and producers, just kind of like it's all in me.
Yeah.
And you create the story. When it walks in the door, when it comes in the door, that story is created. And what's going to surround that story when someone comes in that has been injured or whatever may have happened to them, what is the story here? And so to create the story, you place the characters, you place the location, you place what happened, you place the timeline, you place the holidays they're going to miss, anniversaries they may miss, children's birthdays they may miss. So all of those things go into the story.
Wow. So can you talk about maybe an example of a case that you've done that this applied to? And this is more than just a day in the life video, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Our our videos, they have a day in the life component. Don't get me wrong. But the first video I ever saw was a day in the life video.
Hmm.
And it was a victim that had been run over by a car, and it was a kid that was 18 years old, football player,
Mm-hmm.
all these things are in the story. But all the video was him not being able to take care of himself and not being able to eat and all these other things. And to be quite honest with you, it was exploitive. And I thought to myself, I was like, if that happened to me and I was a college football player or a high school football player, I wouldn't want to be depicted to anyone
Yeah.
in that form, because what you gotta create is an underdog. You don't want people feeling sorry for your client. You want people pulling for your client. You want
Hmm.
people to be part of their cause so that they get behind you and say, "Hey, this person's going through a process here. They've been inflicted by something that
Yeah.
they had no choice, and now they're going into a journey, and they're going to need help on that journey. You have to get that story across." So,
Ah.
as I had a case, the kid up in North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. He got blown up on the back of a tractor trailer truck. He was like 30 years old, I say kid. But his story was just incredible. He had adopted a little boy, and he was adopted himself.
Hmm.
He had a little girl, and he was getting ready to get married, and all of these things were coming together. So I tell you what I did as far as the story goes. I asked him, I said, if anyone in this world impacted your life the most, who would that person be? He said, Jay, probably my high school football coach. And I said, well, where is he? He said, I don't know. I hadn't seen him in 20 years. So I at heart, I'm an investigator, right? I can just about tell you what crib you was born in. So I can find you if I start looking for you.
I hope not.
And so he I found his high school football coach, and I flew him in from Birmingham, Alabama. And this is very important in a video. And I sat him down and I said, now you tell me the story of Anthony when you met him. He said, man, he said, that kid was nothing but a fighter. He was the least selfish person I ever known. And he said, he was the hardest playing football player I had, right? So I filmed all this, sat him down in front of a trophy case, big trophy case. So it had such impact visually.
Yeah.
The next day, I took him to see Anthony. He had no idea he was coming. So when these two got together, I filmed the reunion, and it was the most emotionally impactful moment in any video I've ever done.
Wow.
And so then I took him outside and I sat him on the tailgate of a truck, and I'm shooting the whole thing. I said, now you tell me the difference. He said that kid is a shell of what he was when I knew him.
Yeah.
So that does two things. You got a witness that can timestamp the damage that's been done to this individual,
Hmm.
and he can't be touched by anybody else. Because if
Hmm.
you cross-examine him, you start beating him up on the stand, then you're the bully now.
Mm.
So that's the investigative part about putting together a case like a TV show, because that
Wow.
that was just like a TV show.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, I can kind of visualize that. You talk about the tailgate and bringing those two together and everything. So, you, I know there's a point you want to make is a law firm, in addition to hiring their administrative staff, should consider other hires, right?
I've worked with maybe 8 law firms now. They're not hiring a bunch of you know private investigators and all this other stuff. They're hiring TV producers. That's what they're hiring. They're bringing in TV producers that can look at a case from an outside perspective, that can give them a different point of view. And what that means is different points of view can mean a lot of things when it comes to the end of a case or settling a case,
You
because
bet.
those different points of view can actually mean more defendants or more victims. So getting those points of view and say, hey, what about this? Because that producer, he's going to dig into the story of each individual, right? Everybody that's been affected. So all of a sudden you have more damages because this guy is creative in a way that a lot of lawyers aren't.
Yeah.
And it is basically looking at a case like a script.
Interesting. Yeah. So I don't think most law firms consider hiring a TV producer or a TV producer type person, but that makes sense because it's someone who's used to telling a story visually. I know a lot of my clients are very comfortable speaking, right, in a courtroom, speaking before the jury, writing, reading, but how much visualization is going on other than your standard, chart or diagram and things like that. So
Well, there's a lot to that. Like I have some firms that I do business with, and I'll go, how old is the adjuster? Where is he from? What, all these things about him. And then when I figure out how old he is, where he's from, I'll call my agent and I'll say, look, I got a guy, he's this age, he lives here, he does this. I say, what kind of TV shows does he watch? And she can tell me. She can say, well, he likes to watch Live PD. He likes to watch. So when I shoot the video, I will actually make it move like the shows that he likes.
wow. So
So
you're
there's
targeting toward the adjuster on a demographic basis.
yes, if you're talking to an adjuster, if you're talking to a focus group or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
there's shows that you watch, and the reason you watch them is because of the way that they're structured.
Mm-hmm.
And see, networks have ways of tracking every show. So they know how old you are, they know where you live, and they know what kind of show you're going to watch. They can even tell you if you leave their channel and their show, what show you go to.
No kidding. Yeah, they track all that, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
That's kind
So
of scary.
you have to get that granular.
I always figure my iPhone's listening to me no matter what.
Yeah.
Great. Well, this is a really interesting twist on things. That's why I wanted to introduce you to our clients and friends across the country. Let's open it up to questions, Jay. And folks, for those of you who are watching, I invite you to enter some questions, and we'll give you a moment to do that. In the meantime, we're going to put Jay's contact information on the screen. And if you're watching, you'll receive a link to a video of this. So if you don't have a pen or something to write that down with, and Jay, what kind of, do you have a typical type of law firm you work with? All plaintiff lawyers, I suppose?
Mostly plaintiff lawyers. I mean, I've done a video for a divorce case, and it was brutal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was. Like I said, yes, mostly plaintiff firms is what we do. But if you tell me a story, then I can just about tell. I mean, you give me a case, I can tell you what it look like. I don't care what it is. If it's white collar crime, if it's fraud or whatever, it may not be the most interesting.
Super. Well, here's our first question. All sounds complicated. How does one get started?
Oh, it's not complicated at all. It's just one phone call. You call me and say, "Hey, Jay, I got a case. It's so and so got this and so got that." I'll hear the case. I'll ask you a little bit about your client, who they are, what they do, where they live, that kind of thing, and then I'll put the rest of it together. I'll start doing all the investigative part. I'll start doing all the production part. So as far as complicated goes, all I need is contact information and I'll make it happen.
Right. Here's a question. Do you recommend purchasing video equipment and or having in-house video at your law firm?
Okay, well no, I don't recommend you buying all this equipment because that stuff changes every week and it becomes very complicated. And you hire people that are just producers and you don't have an investigative side of it. It can be very difficult because they're real creative people and they can be difficult to deal with. But to answer the question, I would recommend buying a mid-range video camera. There's a thing called a Pocket Osmo that's awesome, that you can send out with your experts to film stuff, so that you'll have that quality that when if you call me in, I'll have that footage. And that's important because it's the same way with a deposition. You have a deposition in a case. If you plan on doing a video, I can let you know what I need for the video. So if a guy says, you know, no, I didn't pull out in front of them in the deposition, then I've got the highway camera and the traffic light footage that just shows him doing just that. So that's depositions are a big part of videos.
Okay, next question. This one's from Chandler, Arizona. And what is the typical cost for a film?
Depends on how many witnesses, and it depends on how difficult the case is. Just as from a legal standpoint, the more moving parts, the more it costs. But anywhere from $25,000 to $30,000.
Okay, so it's not inexpensive. So you're doing these on more substantial cases. This is not
I wouldn't
case.
even if the case is not 750 and above, then I wouldn't even look at it.
Right. Do you work nationwide?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm everywhere. For the past 3 months, I've been from California to Las Vegas to Montgomery, Alabama. I just got back from Greensboro, North Carolina yesterday. So yes, we move.
Great. Okay, fantastic. Well, Jay, folks, if you have other questions, feel free to contact Jay directly. His contact information is on there. If you have questions for me, you can see my information on the screen as well. And Jay, anything you'd like to add?
No, I just really appreciate your time and appreciate the opportunity to talk to all you folks out there. If you ever get the opportunity to come to South Carolina, beautiful place. And I guess the last thing I always say to all the attorneys that I speak in front of and to is your clients deserve their story to be told in the most powerful way. And whatever that way may be, seek it out and just make it happen.
Absolutely, absolutely, fantastic. Well, this webinar was brought to you by Advocate Capital here in Nashville, Tennessee. For more content on Law Practice Channel, visit our website. And this is Mike Swanson signing off for the lawpracticechannel.com. Jay, thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Okay, I'll take care.